What is up, guys? This is Jack McNeeler. I'll be talking 1, 2, 3, your host on the Real Sports Talk podcast every Saturday night, 11 o'clock Eastern, and on Twitter, I'll be talking 1, 2, 3. Let's get to the huge news that is out in baseball today, the most surprising deal that I've ever seen. And I said that with the Dodgers, Red Sox. I'll tell you why this is more shocking. Because the Red Sox were in a desperate state, and were willing to get rid of anything, and I think it was obvious with all the media attention that they were getting that something big was happening. And the Dodgers were making it so blatantly clear that they would take any upgrade, and they were willing to spend as much money as possible. Very different situation here with the Blue Jays and the Marlins. Two unlikely teams to be involved in this kind of deal. The Marlins not as much, but considering all the moves that they made during the trade deadline and even the offseason with the Heath Bell, I thought they were somewhat close to being finished. I did not really expect them to trade Jose Reyes, although they did not sign him with a no-trade clause, something they offered Albert Pujols a huge contract, but he did not sign because they want to include no-trade clause, and I think he's very happy he didn't because he would have had a disastrous year with the Marlins. A lot of blame would be on him, and of course, a lot of blame right now is on Jeffrey Loria. A lot of people are giving him a lot of criticism, and I'm not going to let him off the hook here. I think, what he did has been rebuilding this team. This is a third time since '97. Yes, they have won a World Series, but they rebuilt it the 2 years after. And really the only plus of this deal for the Marlins are the prospects that have been involved. They have just built up their farm system pretty well from all the trades, including Anibal Sanchez and others in the past year. And most notably now, of course, Jose Reyes, Heath Bell earlier in the offseason, and Mark Buehrle. You would think that would be enough for any team to trade Jose Reyes and one of your best starting pitchers in Mark Buehrle, and all the salary involved that you have 5 years left on Reyes' contract and over $90 million, and then you have 3 years and $52 million. Now, Buehrle, if he was in the free agent market today, I don't even know if he would get 3 years, $52 million. I mean, they really did backload that contract, put a lot of the money in the later years, and only paid him something like $5 or $6 million this year. So, a smart business move for the Marlins, but again, this just keeps adding to the fans' disappointment with this team and the ownership to really be looking at it more on the business side than at least keeping some of the core players and making your fans happy. And I understand the business side of baseball is very important, and I think in a few years, if the Marlins have rebuilt this successfully and are winning, I don't think the fans will necessarily complain, but this is the low point in the Miami Marlins franchise. You look at the empty seats, there's going to be even lower attendance problems last year with the huge stadium, the new one that the city and the state is paying a lot of money for, and now they really just take out everyone who's making money in this Marlins team, as Buster Olney so well put it, and trading them to the Blue Jays. And Giancarlo Stanton is simply not happy. He made a tweet that said, "I'm so pissed off right now," exclamation mark. So it's somewhat of a playful way, but he is very angry, and I understand his anger. And let's go from the Blue Jays side, though. Alex Anthopoulos is a genius general manager. I think the Colby Rasmus trade maybe hasn't worked out as he expected, but the way he's able to make some of these huge deals, 8-player, 10-player, 12-player deals, I think that any team would want him as a GM. And to be able to get all of these guys and make your team right now one of the favorites to win the AL East or get a wild card spot, I think is really amazing thing to do. The Toronto Blue Jays have been involved, again, with so many free agent discussions over the past few years, have been involved with a lot of trade discussions, and were involved with almost every single big-name free agent pitcher this year because he has promised 2 starting pitchers. And when you do that, you not only put a lot of pressure on yourself, but on your team for the next year because they know the holes that need to be filled. Well, not just this. They don't just fill starting pitching with one of the best pitchers in baseball. I will say this because he had a very good year last year, a good bounce-back year. But when he was at his best in 2010, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's a top 10 pitcher when he is healthy. And for him, I think we'll come back next year, and I think he'll win 16 games for the Blue Jays. I really do. And I think he will have a very good season. He's a big guy. He's a strong guy. He can be a power pitcher. He's one of the best in the game. He can lead the staff. And just having his presence in that starting rotation is absolutely huge for the Blue Jays. Now, not only him, though, they're adding a very solid third starter for them in Mark Buehrle. He's a ground ball pitcher. Obviously, he's a little older, still has 3 years left on the contract, but the Blue Jays have the money with their owners. They do have a lot of money, the Rogers Communication, and they always threaten to spend the money, and they don't, but right here, they show exactly what they mean. They go out and get 2 starting pitchers. that will finish a rotation and that will make it extremely strong. Now, in the process, they do trade Henderson Alvarez, who, did make 31 starts for them last year, but you take in all the guys coming back from injuries this year, you take in all the starters that they have, and you take in, hopefully, Ricky Romero having a better year in 2013 than 2012. That was disastrous. After the first 6 or 7 starts, it was just terrible. So I think he will have a bounce back year. When you have a rotation of Romero and Josh Johnson and Mark Buehrle, even if it's just Josh Johnson for a year, or they are able to re-sign him, which I think that the fans there will love him if he does well. It's hard not to re-sign a guy like that involved in such a memorable deal. I think this Blue Jays team is got to be up there for the favorites to win the AL East. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I do not think it will be like the Marlins situation at all. I think their team personality is so different, and the environment in Toronto is already so vastly different from the environment in Miami. I think Miami, you go in there, you just sign a bunch of free agents like Heath Bell and Jose Reyes and Mark Buehrle, expect to win. You have the franchise, the Showtime show on you. The owner just pours out money, new ballpark, thinking that it's just going to change your low attendance and your team's history. And for a while, it maybe looked like it was going to at least help, but the attendance numbers weren't huge, and you have the huge meltdown by Ozzie Guillen with the Cuban comments, and then, of course, he gets fired, and you have Heath Bell traded, and you have Anibal Sanchez traded, and you even trade for Carlos Lee. I don't know why. That's when they thought they were going to be in contention when Giancarlo Stanton was going to come back. And I feel bad for Giancarlo Stanton. I feel bad for anyone on the Miami Marlins team. I'm not going to put all the blame on the owner, but he did stamp these decisions. I understand the moving forward. I understand for the Marlins' point of view, it's a business decision. You're saving a lot of money, and guys that probably want to produce, or at least want to produce on a winning team to their full potential. And not only that, you're probably overpaying for them. And not only that, the Marlins probably would not win this year. I know a lot of people will say, they could have been in contention. They're a good team on paper. I just personally don't see them winning this year, even if they had Jose Reyes, Mark Buehrle, Emilio Bonifacio, and John Buck. But I think it's a very important point to make, is the Marlins also get Jeff Mathis, who is not a great player. He had just barely over 200, and for the Blue Jays, that's just barely anyone to give up. I mean, you look at the prospects the Blue Jays did give up. The shortstop Adini Hechavarria, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. He's actually a pretty good shortstop prospect. He's been compared to guys like Alcides Escobar and Alexi Ramirez. I'm not saying he's going to be like that, but he's put up pretty good numbers, and I think getting him was a big part for the Marlins trade, because they also get Escobar, but Escobar has had so many problems. He's just going to be there for a year, and then hopefully you have him stepping in. And Justin Nicolino was one of the top left-handed pitchers in baseball for prospect-wise. I think he could be on the fast track to the major leagues. I think he's been somewhat underrated. I think he's a very good pitcher going to the Marlins. They also get right-handed pitcher Anthony, and I'm not even going to attempt to say his last name, but he pitched for the Lansing Lugnuts last year. I got to see him pitch in the Midwest League, a 3.37 ERA, 11-3. It was part of that great rotation by the Class A for the Blue Jays, and it just shows the depth of pitching in this system. And with all the young guys going to the Marlins, they're really showing me, in my opinion, that they're not going to be ready to compete for a few years. They're going to build up this team, and I think eventually if fans start showing up and they start winning, they'll have to build up the payroll as well. I mean, when you have guys like Jacob Turner, Nathan Eovaldi, other guys acquired in trades in the offseason, in the trade deadline, now you start building a rotation that is built for the future. Eovaldi was a solid 4 type of starter. You have Henderson Alvarez, he's a solid 3 to 5, maybe fits in there somewhere in there. So they do have a starting rotation of young guys, and I think that's something to watch for the Marlins, and it's a plus. But for so many fans that got so excited for the Marlins entering last year, to have all of that gone within a whole year, just like $300 million in salary for the next few years, just all the way wiped away. I think some teams would be like, oh, this is a blessing, but for a team like the Marlins and the low attendance problems and the fans barely clinging to whatever is left, to see this happen is just absolutely just a huge blow to the Marlins and their fan base and whatever was left. I mean, this Marlins team that went 69-93, fires Ozzie Guillen, trades Heath Bell, trades Hanley Ramirez, gets some decent prospects, and now just anyone who's getting paid a decent amount of money is traded away. Now let's talk a little bit more about the Blue Jays here. I could go on all day about the Marlins. I'm sorry for you guys if you guys are fans, and I think Jeffrey Loria has just not done a great job throughout this past year of building this team to win in a new city, and of course dismantling it within a year. But if you look at the money saved wise, business wise, great decisions. But you're talking about baseball-wise, and this just looks kind of pitiful, honestly. Now, Jose Reyes, this is a guy who's going to steal a lot of bases. Stole 40 last year, stole 77 in his, as high as 77 in a season in his career. So this is a guy who's going to provide great speed in the beginning of the lineup. The Blue Jays had problems with striking out, hitting a lot of home runs with Kelly Johnson gone. Maestros Turris in there, more of a contact hitter. You have Jose Reyes at the top of the lineup, contact hitter. You're going to get things going. Emilio Bonifacio, also some speed, contact hitter. This is great additions to the Blue Jays lineup. Then you also have a veteran guy in John Buck, who you're going to have Travis Dinard obviously be the starting catcher for the season. A fantastic prospect, but it's a solid veteran, even though you're paying $6 million a year. It's just one of those contracts that the Marlins had to include in the deal. So they're getting Reyes, they're getting Josh Johnson, improving the starting pitching, improving their lineup. Now you have Reyes, you have Bautista, you have Bonifacio, you have Reyes, you have Lowry, you have Edwin Encarnacion. I mean, this is a great lineup in a very good AL East, and they should be very competitive this year. Sure, it's a lot of money, but this Blue Jays team already has a great team to work with. You have a core of Jose Bautista locked up, Edwin Encarnacion locked up, some starting pitchers in Ricky Romero. You now have Maestros Turris, you have Colby Rasmus, you have Brett Lowry, and you have young catcher in Travis Dinard. So this is a young team with some good pitching, and now you add all of this just influx of starting pitching and hitting and veteran help into the team and excitement, and this team is primed and ready to go for 2013. With the Red Sox rebuilding, the Yankees will have a solid year, but could disappoint, obviously, with the troubles in New York financially, trying not to get over the luxury tax, not having Nick Swisher in 2013. And other problems with Curtis Granderson will be a free agent pretty soon. Robinson Cano as well. They're just going to try to get guys like Andy Pettitte. And you have the Rays just trying to trade for a bat. This Blue Jays team has found a year to win. I think they picked a right window. They have a great team this year, looking good for the future. I'm not going to say they won the deal hugely because of the money involved. The Marlins could get better with the prospects as well. But I will say it's a very exciting trade, somewhat surprising trade, well, very surprising trade. And good luck to the Toronto Blue Jays, and good luck with the Marlins rebuilding efforts and the low attendance problems facing them. Thanks for watching Zombie Talk 123.